Hi guys, this is Beth from the trauma blog here at HealthyPlace, and I wanted to talk today a little bit about grief. So I've talked about depression before, and I want to talk about grief because I think grief and depression can be very similar and very confusing to deal with when they overlap. So I've talked about depression before, how it seems kind of like you're stuck in the mud. That's what it feels like when you're depressed. It feels like you're stuck in the mud, you're trying to, claw your way out of that muddy hole, and you just can't get out. You're stuck. It feels like everyone else on the path is just walking by you while you're sitting there stuck in the same spot. And to me, that's what depression feels like. Whenever I am depressed, I always make it my top priority to not be depressed because I don't want to be stuck. I want to be moving along like the rest of those other people. But grief, for me, is very different. It can feel very similar sometimes, but the way I handle it and the way I deal with it is completely different because I don't think grief is something that you get stuck in. I think grief is something that you have to go through. There's that saying out there that the only way out is through. And I think for grief, that definitely rings true. So whenever I can tell that I'm feeling grief, whenever I can tell that I'm grieving, whenever I'm feeling grief, instead of trying to find a way to stop feeling grief or to distract myself so I feel something else or I forget about it, I try to make it a priority to sit down, make time for myself just to be alone and to grieve. So whenever I'm feeling, really upset, whenever I'm feeling that grief for those people that I've lost, I do really try to take time, lock myself in my room, get the tissues, get the sad songs, and just cry and just feel. To grieve those that I've lost, grieve the things that I've lost, grieve the parts of myself that I've lost. And I think over time, the more I do that, the more I just feel those feelings, the less they'll be there. And eventually, grief will be something that just happens every once in a while instead of something that happens very frequently. And I think that's the difference with depression and grief. Depression is a state of mind that's kind of like a poison. You don't want it in your life. It's very detrimental. But grief is healing. It's very painful, but it's very healing too. And in that sense, it's an important part of recovery, is just feeling. So if you're dealing with grief and PTSD at the same time, I would encourage you to not be afraid of those feelings. They're very uncomfortable. They're not fun to deal with, but it does get better over time. And the only way out is through, in this case. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you've had similar experiences in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on grief.